Welcome to the Shlach edition of the short Vort. In this week's Parsha, it starts off with Moshe Rabbeinu sending out the Nisim, the leaders of the tribes, to be spies and check out Eretz Yisrael on how to conquer the land and to show that it is good. So he says, Hashem says, Shlach l'cha anashim, send for yourselves anashim. And Rashi makes a diuk, he's careful with the word that anashim always means chashuvim, important people, and explains that even though they did sin later on, bi'osa shah kasher hayu, that at that hour they were still proper and pure. So we have a Mida K'neged Mida punishment, that Hashem punished the Meraglim and the Jews, that for each day that they scouted out the land, that they would be forced to stay in the Midbar for a year. So for 40 days that they traveled, they were in the Midbar for 40 years. But if you look at the count, it actually comes out that they were there 39 years, 11 months, and 15 days. So we're missing 15 days, or half a month. Now we could blame this as a rounding error, but there's an alternative explanation. That if we look carefully at the words that Rashi said B'osha Shah, at that hour, that they were still righteous. Now, for the Mida K'neged Mida, if you were punished one day corresponding to 1 year, so you have 24 hours in a day, 12 months in a year, so every hour of the day is actually half a month, or 15 days. So since Rashi says Ba'osah Shah Kasherim, since then they were still kasher, there was no reason for them to be punished. So therefore it was half a month that they didn't have to be punished, and therefore we're missing half a month from 40 years, and we only see the 39 years, 11 and a half months. Now, Rapam says that this parsha is all about nisyonos, test of the Bnei Yisrael, and that's something that we constantly have to do in our lives. But the Alter from Kelm gives an explanation of what all these tests really are and how they should be approached. So he gives a mashal, a parable, that this guy was going to shul. He was poor and it was on Shabbos, and as he's going to shul, he sees, we'll call it a bundle of $100 bills, let's say $500 or $1,000, and he's saying, it's muksa because it's Shabbos, but Shabbos, if I took it, would only be a d'Rabbanan. It wouldn't be so bad, and I owe people money, so I have to pay them back, and I've got to pay yeshiva tuition, and I could even get stuck. I haven't had money to get stuck in such a long time, and that's a doraisa, so I could do better by taking this thing, so I could take it home with me and I'll do all these other mitzvahs. So he's working to rationalize it, and finally he decides, you know what, I'm going to take it. And right before he can take it, this other Jew comes by and says to him, Rabbi Yid, why are you staring at that money? Everyone knows it's counterfeit. So could you imagine if this guy had actually taken it home and then he found out that it was counterfeit, that all his cheshbonos were for naught? He would have been over an avera of taking it in on Shabbos, and there would have been none of his mitzvahs or paying back, and he could even gotten in trouble with the law. And that's the same thing with all the nisyonos, all the challenges that we face. They may seem good, they may seem tempting, but in reality, they're just counterfeit, they're just illusions. So maybe we'll be successful when facing our challenges, that we realize that the illusory benefits are not real, and that we should focus on what is real in serving Hashem and doing chesed and mitzvahs. Have a wonderful Shabbos.